Okay, well, let's get started. My name is John Leckley, and I'm Infrastructure Manager at Louisville MSD. And today we are meeting to talk about one of our consent decree projects. It's the CSO 190 Green Infrastructure Project. This is our second meeting of 4. We had our first meeting February 9th, and that was the initial planning meeting to give everybody a brief understanding of what the project is and our outcomes. This is the second of the 4 meetings to talk about some initial design concepts, and then we'll have the other 2 follow-up meetings. We understand that everybody's time is very important. There's a lot of things going on in your lives. So for that, if you notice in the back, we are videotaping this. This will play back for those that aren't here that can listen, learn, and reply to what's going on with this meeting. But there are a few things that we asked to help with that. First off, cell phones. It would be really good. Make sure everybody has theirs on silent so that if phone calls, family, friends are important, but at least it won't get recorded on the video. And because we are taping, it'll be very difficult for everybody to be able to hear everybody's questions or comments. We hope that you have some questions, some comments you would like to talk about. So what we would request is that everybody got an index card. If you would please write down your question. And one thing we need to do, because we are going to collate and we're going to separate, is a question per index card. Ask as many questions as you want, and we have a bunch of extra index cards that we can get out to everybody. At the end of the presentation, we'll also allow people to come back to the microphone with questions and ask, and we'll provide answers. So there'll be multiple opportunities to address questions. Secondly, part of this presentation, I just want to make sure, does everybody have a clicker? Okay. That's going to be important because we would like to have this will be an interactive meeting, and we're going to ask some questions so we can learn more about the project area and some of the issues going on in it. I've been told restrooms are located down the hall. You go about halfway down, and they're on the left. And then let's get started. So today we're here to talk about the Portland Green Infrastructure Project. So just a quick background. As I previously mentioned, we met February 9th. At that meeting, we did some preliminary, and it was more of the planning meeting to let everybody know exactly why we're here. MSD is under a federal consent decree to eliminate combined sewer overflows and separate sanitary sewer overflows during wet weather events. We discussed what causes overflows, wet weather. We have a lot of aging system. We also have some system that has capacity concerns. We talked a little bit about, and we will today, a little bit more what you can do. We'll go a little bit more in detail, a brief summary of what MSD is doing. But basically the main reason for this meeting today is we told everybody at that conceptual planning meeting on February 9th that we would come back and talk about some conceptual design. If you want to find out more about MSD's consent decree program, how you can help, please go to msdprojectwin.org. There's a public input section, and there's probably more information you would ever want to know about the federal consent decree, our mission, our goals, and things that you as friends and neighbors can do. There's also an online survey that you can fill out that will help us out. So phase 2. The reason why we're here today is we're starting a new process to where we are meeting with the public 4 times before we start construction of a project. Previous MSD, our first meeting with the public was at the construction phase. We would call them our partner or dust meetings. We've already had the first meeting for this project, which was the orientation meeting. It provided a little bit of background information, MSD's role, and some understanding of the roles and responsibilities of the citizens. What we're here today is to talk about the conceptual design. We are truly at the very beginning of this project. We haven't put ink to paper. We haven't finalized plans. We are here to get input and have a discussion with the community, the neighbors, stakeholders, the businesses in the area, so we can better understand what the needs are for the area, and we can help work together as a group, become a group of stakeholders together to ultimately have a successful project for everybody at the end. So today, we're going to talk about the project. One of the things and the main reason with the clickers, we're going to have some questions, and some of the questions we're going to talk about is the demographics, get to know the Portland area a little bit better. We also are going to update what green infrastructure is. A lot has heard that term green infrastructure, but hopefully when you leave here today, you'll have a stronger understanding of what that actually means and how it could be used. We have some conceptual design options. We have looked in the area, I'll explain a little bit, but some green grass, trees, some green infrastructure that can work in this area and they can be beneficial. And then we'd like, most importantly, to gather your ideas and preferences on the concepts. That's the main reason for these meetings, is to get input from the community, from the stakeholders, so that we can move forward. And then also, we really need to collect any comments on these cards. So please ask as many questions, and I believe we have enough cards for the audience. So, quick consent decree overview. These are our streams and waterways, and these are a very beneficial resource for our community. They provide recreation, they provide habitat, they have good environmental needs as far as the cooling effects. It's a very strong part, and we're fortunate as a county and a community to have streams and a river that we associate with. Here's a picture of some recreational use, education with the kids. A lot of our streams are still in great situations for recreational use. This is a gentleman fishing, and then a group kayaking. This is why we are here. The federal consent decree was put in place by the EPA to resolve wet weather overflows. The picture on your upper left is a separate sanitary sewer system. When it rains through various defects, cracks, or just because of the capacity of the sewers aren't designed for the stormwater flow. So that rainwater gets into the sewers, it overwhelms the capacity of the sewers and causes overflows. So this is direct diluted wastewater escaping the area, and it's everywhere. This is the farther west part of the county in Mill Creek. The bottom picture is right by U of L. That's the viaduct at U of L overflow. And ultimately, this is what we get. This is Beargrass Creek after a rain event, and that is from the stormwater runoff, floatables and solids, and that's also from overflows. This is just downstream of a sanitary sewer overflow. So just about anything and everything a person could flush down a toilet or get into the sewer system comes out of these overflows and goes into our creeks. This is not a combined problem or a small problem, and this is not in just a certain area. This is a problem that affects the entire county. This is a map at the beginning of the consent decree. The blue dots are combined sewer overflows. And please, if you have questions, raise your hand. If I do it, at MSD we use acronyms a lot, so I'll probably get into going CSOs. But CSOs is a combined sewer overflow, and a SSO is a sanitary sewer overflow. And the main difference is that a sanitary sewer overflow is not permitted under any situations. That is raw sewer coming out of the system. In MSD, what we call the sewer belt is the Waterston Expressway. Anything inside the Waterston Expressway, and that includes Louisville and the downtown area, is on a combined sewer system. Anything outside of that basic expressway, the green dots, is a separate sewer system. So just since we are in the city, we are in the combined sewer area, just a little information on what is a combined sewer. Many years ago, when there were streams in this area, during rain events, during storm events, as we wanted to develop, we took those streams, we turned them into a pipe system, we contained them so that we could develop, and then as we grew and developed, the best way to send all that drainage flow out the pipes to the river, we also tied in our sewers. So in the combined system, a CSO, the downtown area, these are permitted only when it rains events that you have overflows. And these overflows go into our creeks and streams and waters, and in our area it's Beargrass Creek and Ohio River. This is a permitted event when it rains. So, you say it's a permanent event, why are we here? It is a permanent event, but also there's violations of the Clean Water Act, and starting in about 2003, the EPA came to Louisville, and we're not the only one. There's many, well, actually every city that's on a river is under some form of consent decree or about ready to go into consent decree, because the EPA and the federal government finally came in and said, we need to reduce that overflow. We need to eliminate as much as possible that overflow in the raw sewage, diluted or not, that gets into our system. So in 2008, we agreed and submitted a mandate to help correct this, both combined and separate. It's about $850 million. 320 of it is approximately in the combined system. 2009, it was approved, and we're moving forward. The two key notes on this to date is that the combined sewer program, which is where we are today, all of our projects are mandated and had to be completed by 2020. The separate sewer program has to be completed by 2024. So what can we do to control overflows, CSOs, or combined sewer overflows? There's source control projects. In the combined system, since drainage is getting into the sewers, impervious surfaces such as asphalt, concrete, add to the system. There's a lot of point source and green infrastructure to help with that. We'll talk about a little more. There's also a lot of source control projects, downspouts. In the combined system, I mentioned we took and piped so we can develop and put our homes in this area. Well, part of that was, where do you put your downspouts? You tied them into the sewers. So there's a lot of homes with sewers in this area that are connected. Sump pump disconnections also. Where are you going to send your sump pump? It just turns outside your house. You send it to the area drainage system. The area drainage system is the combined sewer. And then also sewer rehabilitation. We have a lot of these sewers are built in the 1800s. We can go in, just like if a lot of them are the clay terracotta pipes. If you have ever had a clay terracotta pot and set it on your deck, it weathers, it cracks, it falls apart. That's a lot of the problems. And then the other side of it is the gray infrastructure projects. These are large pipeline projects, gray. So it's the gray pipes, it's the gray pump stations, it's the concrete structures that we put in place, the treatment plant expansions, the storage basins to handle that overflow. So our progress to date, this is our consent decree on a one-slide chart. We are approximately 50% overall with the project. It is 2015, and as you can see, a lot of our initial projects was working and relating to our sanitary sewer overflows. I mentioned they're illegal during any situation, so we had some of those. We completed those projects. And this is our progress to where overflow occurrences over time once we get to the project. Now, I need to note that we cannot eliminate, there isn't a storm we can design for to eliminate all overflows that may happen. For an example, everybody was, I'm assuming a lot of people was around a couple weeks ago on the Thursday and Friday where a lot of the county averaged 6 inches of rain. That's a design storm that you cannot. So we have picked a typical year design storm, an average event. 95% of all the events we will capture, we will treat, we won't have overflows, but there still could potentially be that event to where, because some people have asked the question, if you look at the chart, the overflows, and they don't go to zero. There still could be some, but they would be hopefully on more of a very rare occasion. So MSD projects across Louisville. I mentioned several times, we're downtown. The green area represents the combined sewer system. You have Beargrass Creek and then the Ohio River. And these blue dots represents the sewer overflows, the permanent locations. And everything most cost effective you have to pick up by gravity. So any of the sewers are the overflows. These squares represent basins, storage sewer basins or projects that this group of overflows, for example, we're going to pick up and stop from going down into the system. And then, so they're downstream. And the whole project is geared to work around the county and eventually come out to where this is one of our large treatment plants. This project is to talk about, today we're going to talk about one of the projects that is in the Portland area that was going to be a basin, but we have determined that we can help with the green infrastructure. So, if everybody would get their clickers, we're going to now have a little fun and kind of get our thumbs warmed up on the use of the clickers. These are simple to use. You will see numbers relating to questions on how you can respond. These are really great to get a large group of input because it's anonymous. It's simultaneous. We all see the results, and it's an equal voice for all. And some of those that are a little bit more reserved or quiet that might want to speak out has a chance of a voice. So it's an equal voice for everybody in the audience, and we could see as a group live responses. So, if you wouldn't mind, how old are you? Okay, so it looks like the majority of the votes are in the 50 to 60-year-old range. Gender? And we have a large group. So this is going a little bit more detail on where you live and how we want to understand your community, how you interact in your community, and where you live. We have taken the project area. The project area for this CSO project is this darker blue outline. Area 1, if you're in this area, 17th Street up to about Portland Avenue, Bank Street. Area 2 is Loud or Roland up to the interstate. Area 3 is 16th Street west to 18th approximately. And Area 4 is 16th Street east to about 15th Street approximately, as you can see it. And then Area 5 is anywhere else in the county. So if you don't live in the project area, anywhere else in the county. So we would ask to vote where you live. And one in the area and the most outside. So this next question is, so where do you spend your day? If you're in the area, how do you interact within this area?
I'm not sure where it says Portland Avenue, but where the end at our program? Is it at Northwest Incorporated where it starts? Or?
It looks like it's about, we go as far as 18th. What's that street?
It's 22nd Street's where the ramp is, so it's before that.
Yeah.
So it's 18th or 19th.
It's about 18th or 19th. It's okay. So, up to 3 votes. So, and the way these clickers work, in this instance, we're asking you to vote on 3 of these. It accepts your last 3 entries. So you can press it 6 or 7 or 8 times. If you press 1 by mistake, just your last 3 entries. So we have one within area 1, and then the most spend most of their time outside of the area. Where do you operate a business? So part of our information on demographics and working with the community and neighborhood, we like to see what's going on as far as if you operate or own a business in the area. Area 1, 2, 3, 4, or the rest of the city, or 6 if you don't operate or have any business in the area. Okay. We have somebody in Area 1, and then the majority is outside the area. So, this is pretty important to us. We are really striving to improve our communication and get message out and invite. So we would like to know, how did you hear about this meeting? And again, up to 3 if possible. So, saw it in a council newsletter. Thank you very much. And we got heard it from someone, and postcards. Excellent. So what are your primary sources? What would you, MSD projects? So primarily, how have you heard about MSD projects in the past? Public meetings is the majority of it, and we also have some local mainstream print or broadcast media. Now, to help us move forward, how would you like to learn about MSD projects? Up here, up to 3, what would be your top 3 from meetings, Metro TV, Project One website? social media, emails, what would be the best way to communicate? And the winner is the Metro Council District newsletter, and we also have some votes for bill inserts and emails, which hopefully, if everybody signed in, one of the things we anticipated that we're trying to get a better email group out. So if you hadn't already, please, on your way out, make sure we have your email address. So we can rest these for a little while. We're going to talk a little bit about the project and go in a little detail. There are two projects in the Portland area. There is the CSO 190 Green Infrastructure Project, and then there's also the Portland Wharf Project Basin Project. The Basin Project will be discussed at an upcoming separate meeting. Today we are talking just about the project area for the CSO 190 and the Green Infrastructure Project. And this is just an overview of the area, showing that it is a pretty good mix of both businesses, commercial, residents, and a lot of parking lots, a lot of impervious areas that we can come in and address. So the goal, I mentioned, this is the area. What is in the orange or the yellow bold line, that is the project area. And basically, a drop of rain lands within that area. It drains, stays within that area. The main sewer, and this is a note, is on 17th Street. The main drainage sewer is on 17th Street, and it goes to the CSO 190, which is, if you're familiar, at the end of 17th Street, there is an MSD flood pump station. And a lot of our flood pump stations are oriented near or associated with CSOs because that is where the drainage goes, and they can pump it out or not have the sewer or the river come in, have them come back up. So this overflow per typical year, I mentioned before that we have to design for what is a typical year the majority of the time. That overflow activates 61 times. We are mandated under EPA to reduce that to only 8 times in a typical year. And what that results is that we have to capture 32 million gallons of overflow in a typical year. So we have to come up with a project that will prevent 32 million gallons of the diluted sewage from discharging into the river. So what will it take to accomplish that? The area that we're talking about, and now it's in red, this is the same area, is approximately 142 total acres. 96 acres is impervious. So that's asphalts, roofs, asphalt driveways, roofs, sidewalks, etc. From that, we have to go in and find, to reduce that 32 million gallons, we have to go in and find 64 acres, or approximately the runoff from 2/3 of that total acreage. We must somehow find a way to contain it and to get it out of the storm system, out of the combined sewer, so it won't overflow, and into either a storage basin or a green project. And this, just real quick, is to show that we're already looking at some of the areas and how we would phase some of these projects. We have to have this project complete by December 2017. To do that, we're going to do it in some phases. Phase 1, we plan to advertise for construction and start construction late this summer. And I mentioned the main sewer is along 17th Street. Well, that's where we need to go first. So that's why we picked that area. And then the other 2 phases, phase 2 and 3, will follow that approximately 4 to 6 months apart. How do we do it? So there are some things that we have to stick with, we have to work with. A lot of times you've heard the example about the river. We couldn't have put the bridge in Bullitt County. There's nothing there. The river is here, that's where the bridge needed to go, and you had 71, 65, and 64 main traffic arteries that connected in that area. So that's where the river needed to go. In our area, if you're familiar with catch basins or storm drains, storm inlets, in this area, the storm drains and the storm inlets are the infrastructure that collects the storm runoff are at the intersection. If you look at the intersection, at each corner of the intersection is the storm inlets. So that's where we needed to go. That's where we need to concentrate on. It wouldn't make any sense for us to do something on some of these areas to capture storm runoff and drainage when the storm runoff and drainage is being captured here by the existing infrastructure at the intersections. So that's why we're focusing on capture the water at the intersections. And for what we need, it's about 2 acres of capture per intersection. It's about 27 intersections throughout the county. Now, we have just preliminary done some of the numbers to figure out what we need to do. These are a lot of the areas we need to work with, but we can also work with community if there's some other areas we need to work with. That's why we're here. But we just need to go back and remember, for an example, the main sewer line is in 17th Street. So it would make no sense to move all this work over, because then you wouldn't be sending it to where it needs to go. So green infrastructure, what is that? Just a real quick definition of the project. Impervious surface is anything that doesn't allow water to percolate, seep through, go through, drain. As you can see, this is an arrow showing the water. The water is hitting, this is an example of a parking lot, this could be a street, but the water is hitting this impervious surface. It can't go through it, and it's flowing. So it'll flow, and where it'll go is here's like the curb and gutter catch basins like what are out there today. And what we're proposing, this is just an example of green infrastructure. What it does is it punches a hole in that concrete, punches a hole in that sidewalk, punches a hole in that asphalt. Before we were here, this is a river valley. It has really good fine sands and gravels, and it has soil conditions that if you can get down to that soil condition, you can hold and store a lot of water. That's what nature did before we got here, and what we're trying to do is get it back to where it was before we needed all the sewers. We can get a lot of storage and a lot of water volume down through this good material. So that is routing the stormwater back to the ground. Above and below ground, there are 2 clear distinctions we need to make here. I mentioned we have to be at the intersections. This is an example. I think this is 17th and Crop intersection. It doesn't really show it graphically, but that is a 42 times 63 inch diameter sewer. It's a very large sewer. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's not cost effective to go in. It probably wouldn't be doable to move that sewer or to do something else with it. So we have to work with the existing infrastructure. My example is the river and the bridge. You have to work where the river was, where you put the bridge. So the below ground work and what we are proposing for this project is based on the existing infrastructure and the best way we can get stormwater runoff out of the sewer system into an infrastructure, green infrastructure, that'll help it get and percolate to the ground. And our proposal is that there will be underground storm arch or water chambers. This example shows it's about 8 foot in diameter. This is a half circle. Water, just like we showed previous, would go into a catch basin. Instead of going into the storm sewer, it would go into these arches. It would be stored there. It's a little volume if we get a large event, so we can handle it, but then it would percolate down into the ground. What we can do and we can talk about, and where we do have several different concepts that we can discuss what we do, is above the ground, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So we need your input. We would like to talk about the variety of treatments and the different types of green infrastructure practices that we can do that could do their jobs. Take the existing intake or the curb inlet drain system, use it. Instead of redoing an existing infrastructure that's there, we can more cost-effectively put our money into a more beneficial green solution. And we'd like to show you some concepts that we came up with today. And what we would really like to do is, some of the demographics questions we asked before was to get you thinking about where you live, where you interact. We're going to ask you that. We're going to show you some concepts. And what we would like to do is to see how these concepts might interact with what you do daily, where you live, or how you function within this area. So this is some existing conditions at 17th and Crop Street. This is where it works today, and very similar throughout the entire area. I'm pointing at the screen. This is the way the sidewalk is. The entire right-of-way, 12, 15 feet, is all concrete. It's impervious. You got the curb and gutter drainage system gets it out, but this doesn't allow anything to percolate or get into the ground. And I do like to note that what we are proposing is all in the right-of-way, so that we can work with, and we'll go in a little bit more details, but we can work with the existing right-of-way. We are going to work with, we've already had a few stakeholder meetings with some private property owners and some businesses in the areas that we would love, if you have an interest, you can get with us after that to maybe do something on your property. But we control the right-of-way. We have the ability to get into the right-of-way. So what we're proposing today would be in the right-of-way. As we go through the options, there will still be some general maintenance that needs to be done by the property owner or by the neighborhood. But in general, any bigger or long-term maintenance will be by MSD, and I'll go in detail. But this is just an example of Crop Street. This is a plan view. This is what us engineers love. We like our plans and our details and stuff. But this shows, you're standing here looking up 17th or at Crop, and this is just an example of us coming in and putting in a strip of grass that could help, a lawn strip of grass, adding it back to the area to where you get rid of that impervious concrete sidewalk, and a strip of grass can allow a lot of percolation. And this is an example of what a rendering of what it could look like if we propose to go that route. This is before, where you have the concrete sidewalk from asphalt all the way to the edge of right-of-way, and this is coming in, still keeping a 5-foot, 6-foot wide sidewalk, meets all codes, plenty of width for pedestrian traffic, but now you have a strip of grass that could allow this entire street's drainage, whether it specifically hits that grass, percolate down into the good soils, or it goes into a catch basin type of curb and gutter, and then goes down into the water. Another example is bump outs, grass strips at the intersections. So what we would be talking about here is at the intersections where you have the existing curb and gutter, we have these bump outs, this is what they're called. And then we just threw some concepts of some trees. So in this area we would also add some trees. And this is just a representation of the bump outs at the intersection, so we can have apples to apples a little bit of what it would look like with just the grass. So, and this is only at the intersection. Here's the curb inlet, the gutter, how the stormwater would get into, and then obviously any stormwater that gets into the system. So, we've come up with 6 possible solutions. We're going to go over each one of these in a little bit more detail and allow you to use the same type of votes. But just basic in a nutshell, it's as simple as the grass strips. So you have the grass strips in the sidewalk, and then there becomes a combination of the grass with trees. You have the intersection bumps out with trees, bump outs with plantings. It could be the trees and ornamental grasses, shrubs. It could be a lot of things as we discuss. And then basically option 6 is including everything. So you have the grass, trees, bump outs, and plantings. And part of that would be is that, and why we're getting with you guys, is to get this information, get some feedback from the neighborhood, and then we can come back at the advanced design concept and show some of the things we put in. So concept number 1, grass strip. A little bit more detail. This is the 6-foot wide sidewalk, grass next to the road. This is the lowest cost concept to construct, and it serves the purpose of the project and will meet our goal for our consent decree. This is also, I mentioned there'll be a little bit of maintenance. Obviously on that one side where it's sidewalk, those are some property owners that will now have any general maintenance you would normally have to do as far as your yard and mowing the grass. Now you'll have an area in front of your house that you'll have to mow. Concept 2, this is the grass strip with trees. Same concept. The added benefit to this, there was a recent tree study that came out, and this area has a very low percentage of existing tree canopy. Us adding some tree canopy to the neighborhood will help with the heat island effect, help cool things in the summer. There's also some benefit in the winter. They could be windbreaks for the colder air. They also have a maintenance of, now you'll have trees that will have to, you'll have leaves that will have to be taken care of and maintained and raked up. And that would be today there's no trees, no leaves that rake up. That would be a benefit. And then there will be some through a combination of everybody, leaves do potentially get in, especially some areas on the catch basins, and then, so there might be a little bit of that. So some additional maintenance that's not there today, mowing the grass strip that's out in front of the property and the leaves and the trees. This is the grass strip intersection bump outs. Additional grass obviously will absorb more water. When we had our stakeholder meeting, a strong concern that we had was some of these streets, traffic is just, they fly up and down these streets. And a stakeholder meeting we had with some business owners and a couple of folks last Thursday, they thought this was great because this will help with that traffic control. This will help speed that down a little. The big thing about that is that this gives you shorter pedestrian crossing distance at the intersections. It's a lower maintenance cost. Again, it's the same thing as the maintenance. And a question did come up as far as parking. We will follow, this will not reduce any existing legal parking that's supposed to happen in the area. So we will follow all the, we've already met with Metro and all the codes and regulations as far as the parking distance and what is a legal permitted parking area versus what is a potential pedestrian or safety line of sight hazard.
Is there a lot of residential on that street?
Yes. The question was if there was a lot of residential on that street, and the answer is on this specific street, yes. I think almost all the homes on this side were residential. The next is grass strip bump outs with trees. Same concept, same information. The added benefit of the helping with the heat island effect, cooler shade of the trees, a little bit higher maintenance because now you have the addition of leaves that will have to be taken care of in addition to the grass. Another concept is there might be some areas where the trees, for various reasons, line of sight, businesses aren't suitable. We could put in plantings. This could be the ornamental grasses, this could be shrubs, it could be, and these could be areas to where the grass is still probably a weekly, or the way it's been raining this last couple of weeks, 2 times a week mow, but these would be areas that would be less maintenance because you would have the existing plantings and there could be some general maintenance as a property owner or as a person that works in an area, but there would be, and these I mentioned, MSD would have contracts that we would quarterly go out and look at some of these and just make sure everything is living and working in. But this would be the bump outs, and instead of grass all the way, you would have some sort of plantings. And then I'm going to call this is everything. This is taking 1 through 5, combining it. So you have the grass, you have the bump outs, you have plantings, you have trees, the benefits of the shorter pedestrian crossing distance at intersections, the trees, shade, the sidewalks and stuff. But you do, this would be the ultimate as far as for the long-term MSD maintenance and also the long-term neighborhood maintenance. This does have a higher maintenance impact. So what do you think? We threw a lot at you. The intent was just to throw some concepts. So what we would like to do is rate each of these. We're gonna ask you about some general thoughts of these ideas, and then we're going to go in a little bit more details and ask you to sort of rate each one of the options and their suitability for residential and commercial areas. So first, what we would like to do is, this is a point to where we would like the audience to participate. And what are some general comments you have, and just basic general comments you have about green infrastructure and what we're planning to do in the area, some comments and some just general statements.
Oh, from us?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not in there.
Okay.
But do y'all ask the people that do live in that, like on that street, have y'all gotten anything from them? Because I only see a few of us here.
Yeah, the question was, do we...
I mean, I hate to vote on something that's not in my neighborhood and have input on that. I mean, but I think y'all doing is fine.
Well, and I think you can. Right. Well, and I think this...
About maintenance on it. I mean, there's property down here
So, and that could be an input. So a comment would be as maintenance concerns. I mean, whether you live exactly in it or we're all sort of part of the neighborhood and the community, you know, some of the concerns that could be a concern in bigger picture. So what I heard was, and I don't want to, I heard maintenance concerns.
We would have to call the city to complain about, I mean, as far as like the leaves being in the gutter and stopping up the gutters, or, you know,
I guess in extreme situations, people would call metro government, talk about it. We're kind of hoping that a lot of these things we can put in place will try to help alleviate that as much as possible. But yeah, if there's a situation to where
I live over here, and I have a sister that lives over in Rockland. I know when leaves and stuff falls over there, they have certain days, they cannot park on her street. They come down and they clean up all the leaves, so it eliminates the leaves problems and the water getting down and all that other stuff. I mean, is that something that
part of our stakeholder group is working with Metro, and that is information we can go back to them. And what's great about these type of events is that we can go back to them and say, you know, we had extra comments from the public, and one of their concerns was leaves, and we can bring up the suggestion of what happens in southern Indiana. And
a little cutout?
yeah,
I could see, I mean, the trees would be nice, but then all the leaves that would fall, then you got the homeowners, renters, whoever, they just pile up there, and I mean, granted, I guess some of the water will go down, but keeping it.
yep. So maintenance, is anybody else? Come on.
I think I heard her say the trees would be nice, but so maybe a combination of trees would be nice and maintenance concerns.
Trees would be nice. Yes.
For plus or positive for any tree plantings is not only are they aesthetic, but they're also small stormwater basins in themselves. They attenuate climate, heat, shade buildings that reduce energy costs, and they transpire some moisture back into the air.
So a general statement would be the trees are good for the environment. Yeah. Trees, trees, trees.
As long as they don't interrupt or create this sort of sphere.
And then I heard a follow-up was smart design, so that whatever, if I don't know, you need this in a sort smart design, so that whatever is planted doesn't negatively affect the existing infrastructure. So like tree roots would be one. Tree roots and sewer pipes. That's a bullet. Tree roots and sewer pipes.
I guess that's what he's saying.
Smart
about,
landscaping.
like, even the sidewalks. You don't want it to rust up the sidewalks on this deal.
Right.
We've had trees down that just
Yep.
get new sidewalks, and then the city plants a tree and goes to the sidewalk.
That's great. Tree species that won't damage sidewalks.
But smart landscaping is sustainable.
Okay. Since we got a big crowd, I just didn't know if you wanted just everything that was said. Beautifies the area. That's when you're on the spot. Anybody else?
I noticed there are a lot of new sidewalks, like around 17th, out John, the wide sidewalks, down by hot coffee,
Yep.
on 17th. There's one block where there's a lot of trees already planted in one block. And what happens to those projects? They have to be torn out according to whatever selection of one from the city.
Yeah, I would say, I would hope there'd be some smart design, and we would go in, and especially an area where they just planted trees, we're not going to go in and dig trees up. So existing infrastructure improvement, protect or reuse or be conscious of existing infrastructure projects. Yes.
And so you mentioned any pervious pavements in what you're going to implement. Is there opportunity for that, such as the sidewalk, to create additional ways of water moving, or is that redundant if the planted areas are forested?
Right now, nothing is redundant and off the picture, so use of pervious pavers or pavement. Yep. Yep. You have to be a little smart with those, and that might be an example to where if you're going to have trees, we've noticed in areas where there's a lot of organic vegetation, it clogs the pavers and the pavement. But in an area where there's a business, it might make sense because they're going to have trucks driving back and forth. And so, yeah, use of pervious pavement and pavers. Anything else? Well, how about how many are there? 6. So 3. We're going to turn this around, and if you would, use your clickers, and please vote your top 3 of those 6. One, 2, 3. We have 4? Okay. Technology. It always works. Okay. So we're going to move forward. We apologize for the technical, but I think when we get a little further on, there's some more questions that we can talk about it. We've definitely captured those 6 concerns. Good point. And we can carry that on as far as looking at the final design. So, grass strips. This is where we're going to talk about each of the 6 concepts. Low maintenance costs, pretty typical. There's some maintenance as far as mowing. What we would like everybody to vote, 1 through 7, 1 being very unsuitable, so not a good idea, to very suitable. And if you're neutral, and I think as we're a community, we all work together. This is an opinion, whether you're in the area or not, so everybody can vote. What is the suitability of the concept for residential areas? So just voting on just a grass strip and sidewalk. So we're neutral pretty much is the vote here. We have a very suitable, which is good, and we're a little above the mean between 4 and 5, so we're sort of between neutral and somewhat suitable. So this concept for a business area. Same. Consistency. That's always good when you're an engineer. So, concept 2, we're going to talk about the grass strips with trees. A quick review. The only difference is the potential additional maintenance of the leaves in the fall, and then the general maintenance of mowing the grass. So we're going to ask the same questions. The suitability of this concept for a residential area. If everybody could vote. Very good. So everybody in the room thinks this is a very good concept and very suitable, majority. And Even the somewhat suitable was on the positive side of the neutral. And then this concept for a business area. Very good. We have the same, it's split 50-50, but still it's on the positive side and a strong mean. So the mean is suitable. So going a little further, this is the bump outs. So same maintenance as a grass strip, the added benefit of some traffic control with the bump outs and the shorter pedestrian crossing distance at the intersections, and a little bit better line of sight as far as turning radiuses and such, as far as traffic coming in and out of the intersections. So if you would please vote on this concept for residential areas 1 through 7. Neutral and somewhat unsuitable. And then the same concept 3 for business areas. We have we're right in the mean and right in the neutral, but we have a strong vote unsuitable and then a strong vote suitable. So, and then this is concept 4, grass strip, bump outs with the trees. So, residential area. The mean is 5, so we're a little bit above somewhat suitable. More votes for that one. And then the suitability concept 4 for the business area. So the grass, the bump outs, the trees. Same, 5.25. So somewhat suitable, more on the positive side of neutral. So, 2 more. We have the grass strip, bump outs, and plantings. So this is using those bump out areas and planting them with ornamental grasses, some sort of plants that are low maintenance, maybe some type of ground cover. You don't have the trees that may have some high maintenance aspects.
Who would be in charge of the maintenance of the grasses, the plants? MSD will contract with a landscape firm to do minimal quarterly. Yeah. So, and what we have found is it's typically, the question was who would be responsible for the maintenance of, say, the ornamental grasses or plantings in this area. And what we found in the past is there's a fall. You get everything ready for the fall, you cut things back, and then you kind of get everything ready in the spring. But then we'll also have a guy that'll go out quarterly, look at things, and, you know, plants have died and replace them and stuff like that. The general maintenance, and what I would call what that would be is, it'll be difficult for MSD to go out there and pick up every piece of litter or, you know, every little weed that may pop up here or there. So there still would be the thought of some general maintenance out there, but the bigger maintenance of the plantings, the grass will still have to be mowed, but of the plantings, MSD will help. So for a residential area, so we're right around neutral. And then for a business area, somewhat unsuitable. The mean is right at neutral, but we do have 2 of the 4 is somewhat unsuitable. So, and last is the concept to where you combine all the first 5 concepts into one. So you have the grassy areas, the bump outs or trees, natives, plantings, landscape. This is the greater of the landscape planting plan. So please vote on the residential area. Again, we seem to be pretty steady around the neutral.
And then for the business area, so we are somewhat unsuitable. So one thing we would like you guys to think about is that choose up to 2 neighborhood priorities that are most valuable to you of the 5 that we have put up here. And these are coming from information that we have had multiple interactions with the neighborhood already. We have had some private entity. We have met with the council members, and some of the things we have heard from some of the meetings we've had. We've kind of tried to put it together, and of the 5 that has been most current and are most consistently talked about, what of these would be the higher priorities for you? Pick 2 of these 5, please. So, slower traffic speeds and more tree cover, and that is very consistent in the majority of the conversations that we have had. So, again, consistency, which is a good thing. So I'd like to thank you for your input. That was very valuable. To talk about some green infrastructure tasks that you can do as a private entity, as a private property owner. Turn your downspouts into the ground. Almost every home in the combined system has their downspouts, their gutter, their rain system tied into the sanitary sewer. So every bit of rain that hits your roof comes into it. MSD has a program that we will give you $100 for every downspout you disconnect. Steve Tedder is in the back. Show of hands. He has the information, the packet that you'd fill out. You'll get it back to us. We will come out and inspect what you have, confirm. We'll give you a brochure on how to disconnect properly. And then once that's done, we'll inspect it again, and then we will send you a check for, if you have 4 downspouts you disconnect from the sewer, times $100, that'll be $400 incentive. The biggest part of a lot of this stuff, and what is smart about what we're doing, and somebody in the audience mentioned sustainability, your rates and everything we do is based on treating sanitary sewer. And to keep the rates and your bills and everything down and try to keep them down and keep them going, we need to treat only sanitary sewer. So to benefit us, and I know we're asked a lot of times, well, why are you willing to pay the $100? That benefits. We don't want to treat rainwater at the sewers. We want to make sure we keep everything moving forward. We keep the treatment costs down. These are some pictures of some. This is a situation when one was disconnected and it's just a splash. A lot of folks, I would say a majority of the folks that have participated have also used rain barrels. And this is a great opportunity to where you can have just one of your downspouts tied into a rain barrel. I think they're 55 gallons. You can store that water and then tie up a hose or a soaker hose, and you can water your gardens free. You can get with Steve in the back at the end of this meeting. You can also call the number, write it down, 587-0603. We are working together. We're a community as far as public health and safety. So hopefully we've given you a little more information and you understand what's going on in your community, especially when it rains. And we really would appreciate your help and assistance that if you are out and you see an overflow, if you see something like this happening anywhere in the system, please call MSD immediately. And it's the same number, 587-0603. You can also, we're repeating, but go back to our webpage, and public input will give you some more information on our project website. So, as I stated at the very beginning of this meeting, we are trying a new process where we have the 4 informational meetings. We get with the community at the very beginning of the project before, as I stated, pen and ink and designs on paper, get some thought processes. So we would like some input. We're only going to get better if you guys are honest with us. So please, with your clicker, let us know, at least of your experience to date, how satisfied are you with this process we're going through. somewhat satisfied. So the next steps. We will evaluate your input, all the input that we received to date, all the input that we get from meeting with neighborhoods, with stakeholders. We've had meetings with Metro Council. We've had meetings with several businesses. And we will continue. We are reaching out. There's several other meetings that we've attended. We've been in newsletters. This is not the end of the input. We will continue to reach out. If you know folks, please share our information. Ask them to contact us. People that you thought might be here tonight that I'm sure I'm missing a Little League game myself, so everybody has got something going on in their world. They couldn't be here. We understand that. You can get on this site, send us comments. If they send us a comment, we will have their email address. Take the online survey, leave your email address at the end. You can also get with, there's many MSD folks. Jason Dempster, who is in the back, he's the project manager for this. We can get with you. We would love to talk with you. And even if you have names of folks that you think would be interested and would like to participate, we would like our stakeholder group to grow as large as it can, because that's how this is going to be a successful project. And then general information for MSD. Any other items or any other comments or questions? Again, we're here after the meeting. Please come and talk to us. Steve Tedder is in the back. He can help with that. And then 24 hours a day, it's staffed 24/7, 365. You can call our customer service, which is 587-0603. So, before we end, does anybody have any questions that they put on the cards that they would like us to answer? Well, we'd like to thank you for your time and your assistance.
We're going to have a couple more meetings, though, correct?
Yes.
Will we get an email?
Yeah.
You will now. Right now, May 12th is the date, and it'll be here. We are, for consistency, so everybody's used to coming to the same place, we're going to have all our meetings here. So we have initial confirmation with the school that that's open. So May 12th, it's Tuesday, 6:30, same place, same time. And we will take the input and try to get this out. We would like to attend a Portland Now meeting, which is the second Tuesday, I think, of the month, and we'll have the council newsletter. We can get some of this information out. But what we have found is that the biggest way is email addresses. So if you can know friends or family or however is the best way that we can get a group of email that we could send this out, that would be appreciated. Any other questions? Thank you.